Hey, I'm Dr. Marcus.
And I'm Charlie, and this is the Mood Booster podcast.
This episode is a bit of a different one. It's really fun, exciting. We did a webinar last week, and it was all about finding your joy in your everyday while you live in the city. So we're releasing that as this week's episode.
Exactly. It was a fantastic webinar, and we had a lot of fun, whilst it was also super informative. I actually learned a lot as well. In terms of what we covered, it's moving to the city or moving to London if you're not from here, social isolation, that's what Dr. Marks and I covered, and the causes and the impacts. Chris looked at the toxic work culture, or realistically finding your harmony at work and sort of looking at your narratives there. And lastly, how to find your community.
Yeah, I think it's such a fun episode. Chris and Lucy were incredible guests. And what I'd also like to say is, even though this is about finding your joy in the city, so much of what we covered just I think resonates as and is a universal experience for other people as well. Things like social isolation, like you say, Chris was talking about your inner narrative and all those sorts of things. So yeah, it was a brilliant webinar. We loved
was.
it, and obviously now it's here for you to listen to as well. We hope you enjoy it.
100%.
Let's go. In this podcast, we share evidence-based tools, tips, and advice to help you boost your mood, improve your well-being, and find joy in your everyday.
We talk about life's highs, lows, and everything in between with real stories and reflections from our own journeys as well.
With pillars rooted in presence, gratitude, and community, this is the home of well-being and joy.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Thank you for being here, everyone. This is our first webinar from the Mood Booster. I'm Marcus. This is Charlie. We'll go through introductions shortly. But yes, today we're speaking about how to find joy in your everyday while living in London. We're exploring identity, well-being, and belonging for urban residents. We're super excited. As you might have seen, we've got a range of different topics that we'll be covering this evening, and we're really excited to sort of share that information with you and sort of help you feel empowered through the knowledge that we're gonna share with you. So, yeah, we'll get started. Firstly, introductions. Who are we? Who are these faces on your screen, and why have you chosen to listen to us? I'll start first, and then I'll hand over to you, Charlie. I am Dr. Marcus. I am co-founder of the Mood Booster, as well as the Monday Mood Booster Run Club. The Mood Booster being a wellbeing organization that, looks after hosts things like the Monday Mood Booster Run Club, the Mood Booster podcast, things like this webinar, research, all those sorts of things. Really intended to help people find joy. It's the home of well-being and joy, and help empower people and educate people on sort of looking after themselves and finding those small wins in their everyday. So that's the Mood Booster. I myself, have a PhD in psychology. So I'm from a psychology background and just really inspired to sort of, as I say, use the Mood Booster as a vehicle to help sort of disseminate and share that knowledge and that research, and really bridge that gap between academia and the community, because academics can be quite stuck in their ways and quite stuffy and boring, and I really want to help bridge that gap. So that's a bit about me. I'll pass over to you, Charlie.
Thanks, Dr. Marcus. My name's Charlie. Lovely to meet you all. I am co-founder of the Mood Booster. I joined the Run Club, the Monday Mood Booster, a little bit later on, about a year and a half ago now, I think it was. My whole reason for this, my whole why is people, community. I absolutely feed and live off people. I, not quite literally, but more the why, essentially. I absolutely love speaking with people, finding out their whys, communicating. I'm in sales as my main job, so even in that, I speak to people every day, and I absolutely love it. Building a community of people who believe in the same thing, for me, is really what, for lack of better words, tickles the pickle. So yeah, have a lot of fun with it and just love growing this as well. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah, Lucy?
Yeah, hi, I'm Lucy. So I'm an ambassador of the Run Club that Marcus and Charlie mentioned, so the Monday Mood Booster Run Club. I moved to London from Australia about almost 3 years ago, and found the Run Club towards the end of my first year, and it completely changed my trajectory in London, and got to meet these lovely blokes. So yeah, I'm here today to basically talk about that whole move of moving to London.
Cool.
And Chris,
Yeah, we have Chris as well.
Yeah, evening everyone. Chris Hatfield, a performance mindset and wellbeing coach. I created Run Your Mind, which is a run community that also collaborates with lovely run clubs like Mood Booster as well, Monday Mood Booster, with the aim of helping people work on their mind, not just their mileage. So really encouraging people to have those conversations around things that we all think and feel, but sometimes don't always know how to talk about. But the irony is we're often all going through the same thing. It just takes one person to go first, really. So I'm really looking forward to being here and sharing some tips around these topics.
Thank you, Chris.
100%.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Lucy.
Chris.
Yeah. So yeah, of course we've introduced what we're going to be talking about this evening, but for you as people that have decided to tune in, you've seen the information about it, you saw the poster and things, but we really wanted to sort of explain why this is important. You'll have your reasons that you find this interesting and that you've sort of wanted to tune in, but we wanted to explain why we thought this was important to deliver today and why we wanted to share this information. So I think I'll start with my own research that's currently going on at the moment. So I am, as I mentioned at the beginning, a lecturer at university, the University of Hertfordshire to be specific, and I'm conducting research at the moment, just finished data collection, the data collection phase, looking at the value of run clubs specifically for people who live in cities, in this instance, people who live in London. Now, though this was specific to run clubs, a lot of the study spoke about the experience of living in a city and the context of city dwelling. And there were some very common themes throughout all of the participants and all of the transcripts that we have. Over and over again, the same themes were being brought up. People fundamentally not feeling safe in the city. A lot of the female presenting participants, but it wasn't just exclusively the female presenting participants. Several males also shared that sentiment of just fundamentally lacking safety and not feeling safe in the city. Things like being overwhelmed and stressed, so many people around you, just tubes, busy, rat race, all of those things lead to people feeling just really overwhelmed, really stressed in the city. And a big one that was universal throughout most, if not all of the participants, was social isolation. In this context, people were coming to the run clubs to combat their feelings of social isolation, but there was a root cause of socialization or a root experience of social isolation that people were feeling, all of the participants. And I think I'll leave that on to you, Charlie, for the next part.
Yes, some very interesting stats. Thank you, Dr. Marcus. So this is coming from the Gov UK Office for National Statistics. As we can see on the screen, 27% of 3.1 million adults report feeling lonely often or some of the time. Whereas in urban areas, 7% of adults living in these urban areas report that they felt lonely always, compared to only 5% of adults in more rural areas. So those two, regardless of all the other things that come with this, feeling lonely, social isolation, these feelings are more prevalent in these sorts of more urban areas. So it's important to look at these stats because there are trends. The cities typically have lonelier people. So we really want to break that down.
Moreover, not only isolation, but other studies, similar studies have also found in terms of mental disorders in general, like clinically diagnosed mental disorders, they are more prevalent amongst city dwellers. So, for example, we pulled two stats here. By the way, should have said at the beginning, all of the studies we're referencing here will be sent out to you in the follow-up email with the recording. So if you find any of this interesting, of course, we'll be giving you all of the literature here. But
100%.
Yeah, this specific study found that the prevalence of mood disorders was 38% higher in the urban population compared to the rural population, and moreover, anxiety disorders was also more prevalent in city dwellers in the urban population by 21% higher in people that lived in cities compared to those that live in rural areas. So we see across the board here, what we're trying to summarize is there are issues and there are things that people experience living in a city that is kind of unique to the context of living in cities. It's not all doom and gloom, though. This is a motivating starting point, and it's a springboard. It's a reason and it's a why. And what we firmly believe is, though these might be experiences that people have, knowledge is power, and if we know that these are things and we know that these are observable trends that are happening, we can then unpack and explore the mechanisms behind that. And that's what we want to do this evening. Take a bit of a dive into those mechanisms to then help you guys as the audience feel empowered about that, because when you know, you can then maybe think about how you might combat that or the small steps you might take having gained that information and that power through that.
100%. So we also want to talk about what we're going to cover, the itinerary of this fantastic webinar. Firstly, as we mentioned, we have Lucy talking. Oh, one slide back, please.
Sorry about that.
He just skips ahead a slide. This is him all over. Firstly, we're going to be talking about moving to the city, or Lucy will be talking about moving to the city, to London in particular. If any of you guys aren't from London originally, what that's like, the moving, some of the struggles, some of the benefits and opportunities as well. And of course, Lucy will be then touching on more tangible tools which you guys can use if you have struggled on your move into London and how you've really found that. Next, Marcus and I, or Dr. Marcus and I, will be speaking about social isolation. One of the main things of why we're here, why we feel lonely in London, not only the causes, but the impacts that this is having on us as well. So 2 really important things to look at to contextualize it. We also have Chris, of course. He'll be speaking about London's toxic work culture. I know this is something that I particularly have probably fell a bit victim to, but the hustle mentality, the rise and grind in London, a lot of that thing, and then making sure to focus on the right things in London. Chris is going to speak all about that. It's a really, really interesting part. And then lastly, as Marcus said, not only the doom and gloom, but the tools that you can do to find your community and your people in London. How do you find your people? We're going to go into all that and then some pretty good resources towards the end as well.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I think we hand over to Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you, boys. Yeah, so as they mentioned, I'll be talking about the whole moving to London. So personally, my experience was that I came from a city called Brisbane in Australia. Some of you may have heard of it. I did that because I finished a 4-year uni degree at the end of 2022. I felt extremely burnt out and wanted a good break before going into my career. I also knew that I wanted to travel just because I love the regain of perspective that I gain when I do experience new cultures. I think that I can get, like many people, I can get very tunnel vision and very in a pressure cooker when you're focusing on something for so long. For example, for me, it was that uni degree, and doing that and doing it to the best of my ability, I lost perspective, and I knew that a way of regaining that is experiencing new cultures. So I knew that I wanted to travel in that break. So in doing so, I, on a bit of a whim, decided that I'd just book a one-way. I need to acknowledge that I do have a big privilege there in that I have an Irish passport. So a lot of people have to deal with the stresses and the financial pressures of dealing with visas and all of that mayhem. And I do need to acknowledge that I did not have that. So that is a big aspect of as to why I was able to come and stay as well. Also financially, I was working 3 jobs while I was at uni, and I was able to live with my family as well. So I was in a strong position to come, which, as we all know, London is a bit of a terrible place in terms of finances. So to come and in a good financial position is really important. The reason that I stayed for longer than just my traveling period, I noticed that I was growing a lot as a person. I think when I was in Australia, I was noticing that things were feeling a little too easy or a bit too safe. I had an incredible network around me all the time, and I felt like I was just plateauing. And so personally, I wanted to experience some challenge and go through the struggles that I undoubtedly did when I moved to London, to be able to grow as a human. And and so when it comes to those challenges, that loneliness and the isolation, guilt, all of that is a big part of it. So when I first came, I came by myself. Thankfully, I did have some family here, so that made it very helpful in the start. But you do need to start from scratch in terms of your connection, in terms of your network and everything. So I found something that I really struggled with was that I had these rose-colored glasses on, and I was so desperate for connection, and I would see the best in everyone, which is not always the best case scenario when they're not really there for you. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and you don't always mesh with everyone. And I learned that pretty early on. I realized that I was trying to make these strong friendships with people that weren't my type of people, and I really struggled. And in that first year and a half, I was really struggling with this loneliness concept of the fact that I was constantly around so many people. I was working with people, I was living with flatmates, but I was really struggling, and to not have the friends that I had back in Australia to just call up and say, hey, want to go for a walk, want to go for a coffee. I didn't have that network of people around me to be able to just lean on when I could. So I found that really, really lonely. And But that was one of the challenges that I need to go through to get to a place of growth. So in doing that, I realized that you have to learn who you are and what you value in other people and your relationships to realize who you want to surround yourself with. So that's when I started to get a bit more specific with who I spent my time with, who I put my eggs in the basket of, if you like. I became a little more strict in who I allowed into my life, set boundaries, which I'd never really experienced. Because when you're living and growing up in a certain place, you have these easy friendships that come from being at school together, being at uni together, just naturally occurring. When you're moving to a place where you don't have any of that as a baseline, you have to create it. And until I found my communities, I didn't know how to do that. Another struggle that I then found was, once I had made that growth and became who I became, going back to Australia for the first time and visiting, I wasn't the same person. And I really struggled to understand where I sat in that, trying to put myself back into where I was when I left it. It's not the same anymore. So I had to accept the growth that I had made when I left Australia and learn to put the same boundaries in place of when you're going back to if you go back, to make sure that you haven't lost that growth, and not that you lose it, but to really stick hard with what you've learned and maintain that, and don't lose the value that you put on yourself in all of that as well. There's also that, naturally, the guilt of moving so far away. Obviously, Australia is quite literally the other side of the world. And it's that guilt of not being able to be there as soon as something happens in your family, as soon as something happens with your friends. You have to show up in a very different way now. And that is a matter of just trusting that you are the friend that you hope you are, and finding different ways of going about that. In doing so, you also need to learn what is necessary to stay in the loop of and what's not. I think for so long I was trying to still be this overbearing friend to all my friends back home, but I need to accept that, hang on, I can't be that person anymore. I need to only step in when it's necessary. But obviously, there are so many amazing things that come with moving to London. So let's not stay on the downer. In terms of the benefits, the opportunities, London is just a host of so many crazy, impressive, amazing things. You got so many things that are going on, things to try. You're obviously starting from scratch. You've got a blank canvas with no preconceived ideas of who you are, of any judgment that you might hold towards yourself. You can honestly try anything, and you can pretend to be a different person, see if that fits, try something else, see if that fits. It will be a really good way to develop who you are and realize what you want to do in terms of your new life, if we like to call it. You'll also meet a variety of people. London is full of people from absolutely anywhere and everywhere, which is an absolute beauty. And also, in the connections that you do make, because you are choosing them as your family here, they are much deeper, and they are who you rely on in the intensity of London. So it's just an unbelievable connection that you don't realize you could ever make. I think for so long I had, family in one box, friends in another box. But when it comes to living without your family and you're living with your friends as your family, it means that you have to be constantly open and willing to learn with each other. And it's an amazing way to make these friends. So in terms of some tangible things and advice that I'd give anyone who's moving to London, definitely do the base work before you come. If you can try to sort out your job, your housing, just things that you then won't need to worry about, really helps, especially if you're coming by yourself. If you already have somebody over here, then you can kind of land with them and then figure out some things. It just avoids that easy, I give up, I can't do it, and you go back. So doing that is really helpful. Definitely early on, look into joining sports, clubs, group activities, anything. London has so many things going on, and it's a great way to meet some friendly, like-minded people. So a great way to meet your community. Obviously, I said I joined the Monday Mood Booster pretty early on. Once I found that was my my community and the people that I really enjoyed spending time with, I began to open up and was able to then take that on to other aspects of my life in London to then meet more people and continue to grow that network. In doing so, be open, honest, and vulnerable. That's the only way you can get through in London, is just to completely open yourself up. You're going to be this newbie for a little while. As almost everyone in London, I can promise you, will have been in that stage at some point as well. And it's the best way to realize who is going to be your people is by how they react to your vulnerability. And it will just flourish so many of your connections as well. And it will get you to a point where you'll look back at it going, how have I only known this person for 3 months? I feel like we've been brother and sister for years. Otherwise, fake it till you make it. Fake confidence, get comfortable being the newbie. Honestly, there's been so many times where I did not want to show up. I did not want to be this person. I come in with the most amount of energy on those days, and you just get it right back. As soon as you get that response, you'll then actually feel confident. You'll feel comfortable. It will become normal, and you'll be able to then ease into things. London has so much to offer, and you honestly just have to throw yourself into it. Even if that's not who you are, you just find the right people to fake it with, and you'll be surprised where it takes you. That's pretty much the best kind of advice that I can give.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Thank you.
Right.
Lucy will be here and she's staying around until the end. So we do have time for questions at the end. So do put your questions, if you have any, in the chat function, and we'll sort of come to them at the end. But thank you very much for that, Lucy.
Thanks, Lucy. Appreciate that.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Now for us.
Nice. So on to us, as Charlie said, we're talking about social isolation. Again, just to caveat, we're doing so because it's very important to for us to give information about the mechanisms that are going on here and what we can observe so we can do something about it. I really want to start with the causes of social isolation. We know that it's something we're seeing and observing in cities, in this context in London, but why might that be the case? Firstly, I want to tell you about the density-anonymity paradox. It is what it says on the tin, but I will break it down. So it's basically... Break it down. It's basically you're surrounded, but you're unseen. One of the busiest cities in the world, 8 million people, right? I believe 8 million people.
Around there.
So you can't move for seeing someone. You step out your door, you see someone, you're on the tube, you're a sardine. There's people absolutely everywhere. There's a juxtaposition between being surrounded by so many people, but being the most anonymous and unseen you've ever felt. And there's reason for that. If you think psychologically, you see someone in the street, the chances of seeing that person again is literally 1 in 8 million, or whatever. I'm not a mathematician, but it's so slim of seeing that person again. You go to Tesco on Oxford Street, the chance of seeing that cashier or that server again is slim. Whereas if you're in a village and you live in the village, you go to the Tesco, you're going to see that, the chances are you're going to see that server again. And therefore, if you think about it, you're more likely to want to connect with, get to know that person. But when there's so many people, psychologically, there's not even a chance for me to even begin to try, because I'm never going to see them again. I'm not going to know them. They're not going to know me. I'm just one of millions of people. And therefore, you feel completely anonymous, completely unseen. And there's no point even trying to build that connection or even trying to make that community. Now, obviously, that's not a logical, rational thing that we think out loud or externally, but it's still something that is a mechanism that is going on and is observable. So many people around us, we just feel unseen. Moreover, I know you really like this analogy. Again, this is an article we will include. Charlie loves a Mediterranean town square, so he's
gonna love it.
Very happy to include this. But the infrastructure of London, the urban design, we're a city of productivity. London is built for productivity, and of course there are spaces dotted around for community and for connection. But if you think comparatively to a Mediterranean town square, literally the way that square is built, you've got benches, you've got like the park, you've got cafes with tables around. It's 4 corners all facing each other inwards. Therefore, just by the design of that, psychologically, there are people stopping and connecting with each other. Now think about Canary Wharf. high rise after high rise, thin roads, just back and forth. Even from an infrastructure perspective, there's less scope for us to stop and just talk to one another and have those connections. So when that's like your settings and subliminally you're surrounded by that as a setting, of course you're not going to necessarily feel like you have that space or that scope to be able to then just stop and have that connection. Yeah, and another one is the transience of cities. We come here to London, a lot of us. We know that London is a place, like I mentioned, for productivity. People come on their grad schemes, people come in their early 20s. They come, get on the job ladder, they progress up the job ladder, and then often people, not everyone, but people will then settle out in the suburbs, or they'll move elsewhere, or they'll do those things. There's a very sort of set demographic that does move in and therefore out of London. Likewise, we love them, but we have our travellers here who also come here, and we love them and we make such amazing connections with them, but they potentially then move away. There is a transience to this city where people don't necessarily stay. Also, it's hugely expensive, so people can't afford to stay. And therefore, when we do make those connections, we can sometimes feel, and I've certainly felt this in the past, you are potentially being left behind a little bit, and it's obviously not anyone's fault, and we support and champion our friends and want the best for them, but it does sometimes mean like that, that person who I would rely on or I would see for coffee on a Thursday morning is not here anymore, and that's a physical change that's happened because someone's left. And I think finally I just touched on that, but another thing that we're seeing, and I don't need to go on into this for too much because we all know about it. It's been going on for what feels like decades by now, but the cost of living crisis. In the city of productivity, we're here to earn money. Everything's so expensive. We have to spend more time now, more than ever, trying to earn money. Therefore, the opportunity to socialize is reduced because we're working more. But when we do have that time to work, sometimes it is very expensive to socialize. And when you don't necessarily have things to fall back on that are free, like a run club, it can be difficult when you want to see someone to know what to do when you're having to think about your wallet. A little anecdote for you. Charlie and I, in preparation for this webinar, went to Hyde Park for a little laptop session. It was the evening on a Saturday, so we did treat ourselves to an Aperol Spritz. Charlie, do you want to tell the audience how much one glass of Aperol Spritz was?
£16.50.
£16.50 for one Aperol Spritz.
How absurd is that?
Not a jug, not two glasses.
One glass.
One glass.
Un bicchiere. Nuts.
Yes.
Crazy.
Anyway, that's just one example. Obviously, that's a flippant example, but cost of living is a very real, it's a reality for people, and it is something that is causing or contributing towards us feeling isolated because we don't have as many opportunities for social interaction. From that, what does it look like?
Yeah, well, what does it look like? Thanks, Dr. Marcus, once again, for explaining the causes. Again, it's really, really useful to understand what causes this social isolation, but always and more than ever important to understand what impact that actually has on us. If we're all getting so socially isolated, what does that actually look like? Now, there are some more textbook symptoms, whether that be lower mood, higher rates of anxiety. These are all things that we've seen, as we said from the first couple of slides, which can be seen about social isolation. But Dr. Marcus and I wanted to really go into more of the modern manifestations about what social isolation can actually look like. Number one, this won't be a surprise to anyone, the over-reliance on an online connection. Now, it's, as I mentioned, no surprise. Our phones, our laptops, we are glued to them. Sometimes we actually have to be, like my work outside of this, I would not be able to do my work without my laptop. It just wouldn't exist, which is almost crazy. If you tell some caveman from 3,000 or not 3,000, from years ago about like me needing a laptop to work, it wouldn't make sense. The main point, thank you very much. The main point is we are so over-reliant on this online connection, whether it's through our families, our friends, that we're not having the space to have these deeper connections, all these deeper conversations, which really give us that sense of community and connection as well. So it's just the general over-reliance in our day-to-day lives of this online connection, which really lends itself to the idea that we're more socially isolated. Next is the always busy and never connected feeling. This is really important, something I've actually, I think, felt quite a lot as well, especially recently. I've been super busy. Again, London, it's the place to network. It's the place of opportunity. Everyone comes here to, find something or find a community. We're always busy. Every morning and evening, we're at clubs, we're at this, we're at that. Because we're so busy, we never actually allow ourselves to slow down and have more time for fewer connections, but more meaningful connections. If we're always bouncing around different communities, we're always busy, we're always on a rush, and we're never stopping and saying hi and having a half an hour chat to that barista because we're on our way to work. I'm sure if you told an Italian in a little town square, hey, can I get a takeaway coffee, they'd like scoff at you. But takeaway coffees are normal in London because we're always so fast. That's just the nature of it. This is something a little bit more present in men, but we actually see it as quite an interesting phenomenon as using this sort of third thing to do something with someone. So, for instance, say you're seeing a friend, you say, hey, let's meet up. You'd have something, a third thing that you'd be doing to do with that person, whether it's rock climbing, going on a run, having a pint, whatever it is. You'd be doing something whilst you're with someone instead of just hanging out. Again, men are probably a little bit worse at this. I know I'm guilty of this as well. What this means, again, we seem to be socializing, we're seen to be surrounded doing things, but we could actually feel quite disconnected. And so it's just important in the city, in London, when we're so busy, to be quite conscious that these little things can actually end up with us feeling far more socially isolated than we had initially thought. Lastly, really interesting here, a meta-analysis which was looking at different variables on human mortality actually found that loneliness was just as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Crazy. Loco. Yeah, really, really interesting that is. Again, with smoking, it's a little bit different because if you're sense checking, I'm sure I'm not a big smoker myself, but you can see people can say, hey, I think you're smoking quite a lot, maybe you should dial it back, or you can start to get an idea physically that smoking's having an impact. Whereas with loneliness, social isolation, research has shown that we're far more likely to brush us off under the carpet. So it's really important to be quite savvy, or quite privy, to the idea that this can have a real impact on us, and leave a lasting impact. Marcus, is there any of that which resonates with you, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I would just say for me, from my personal experience, a few of those things for sure. I think what I was talking about in terms of the paradox of feeling like just anonymous amongst loads of people. When I first moved to the city 10 years ago, I grew up in the countryside, and I was used to just saying hi to every single person, and then walking around my local park here and being looked at like an alien for saying hi to someone. I was like, oh, okay. And I definitely felt that mechanism of thinking, oh, well, I'm never going to see this person again. It doesn't really matter. So I really try and make a conscious effort. And I'm not trying to be like that guy, but like to try and make a conscious effort when I see a barista or I'm in a restaurant of saying, hi, how are you? And just that small little step. So often you can see they're kind of taken back, like, oh, yeah, I'm good actually. Thank you for asking. And it's just that sort of like, yes, I might never see that person again, but that doesn't mean I can't just have that micro connection in that one moment and speak to that person in that one moment, because that might for them make their day. And likewise, it's not selfless. Like for me, it's nice to have that connection with that person. And yeah, like I say, I'll never see them again, and I might not have the most sort of detailed, in-depth conversation, but it's just nice to have that little connection, and that's something that I've really consciously tried to do. I think, moreover, I have a very good group of friends around me, but at one stage, a good few years ago, I was like, I would quite like to expand my network. I had no idea how to start, and I just found myself going to run club after run club, and I felt like I was very much what you were saying about always busy and always doing something, but never connected. I was going to all of these run clubs, but didn't really feel like I knew anyone that well. And like I'd come to like on a Friday evening and I'd have no plans, and I'd be like, oh, why don't I message someone from run club that I have met? And I would just feel like, do I know them like that to ask them? And do I feel connected enough with them? And I just reflect and was like, I've been going and meeting all these people, but how much do I actually know these people? And there's different levels of connections, and we'll speak about that later. And those are also hugely important. But I think it just allowed me to then try and be a bit more intentional with those when I wanted to be like, okay, actually, I am going to try and nurture this and make an effort to try and have some more in-depth conversations with these people, as opposed to just saying hi, nice to see you, nice run, oh, have you got any runs planned, okay, next thing, and move on. So those are ones that resonate with me. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. The always busy is 100% something I've been quite guilty of recently. Always doing stuff, never really having just time to really nurture a connection. I think that's something particularly just because the way I see London is the place of opportunity, it's the place to grow. But in that comes a bit of a crux of always being busy and never having that connected feeling, which is a bit of a shame. As well as the urban design, the urban layout. London is like, if you ask me to name you a great cafe spot right in the sun, which you could sit for hours, I'd struggle right now. Genuinely, I'd actually struggle. give me Greece or Italy, and I'm joking. I fully can't. But anyway, I think just a bit of the urban design, and for me, always feeling a bit busy as well is one of them. But that's a bit on social isolation. It's not all doom and gloom. We do have some really cool tools and tips after the next slide about finding your community. But first, Chris, we'd like to introduce.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of reflections on your slide there as well, actually.
Please, go for it.
Just from experience, because I think particularly about social isolation, I think it's very easy when we start to feel maybe isolated or down to go insular, to kind of like stop doing things and think, oh, I need to focus on myself. But I think your example there, Marcus, of just asking someone how their day was or having that interaction is a great example of showing actually by bringing joy to other people, you in return will feel it. And it can just be the simplest of things. It doesn't have to be having that big conversation or being there for someone, but it can be so easy to think, oh, I've just got to focus on myself. But by actually focusing on others, you'll get a lot of joy from that and recognize in return, oh, actually, I might not feel it myself, but by doing it for others, I'm getting that. And I'm seeing the value that maybe I don't have things in order or where I want to be right now, but at least I'm showing I've got value beyond myself.
Yeah.
And I've always found that as well, just having those small interactions each day, to your point, where people second guess, they're like, oh, did you actually ask me how I am? Oh yeah, I'm actually really good, thank you. And it's sad in a way that obviously people have that reaction, but if you can do those small acts of kindness, that's I think where those small things add up and make a big difference. And on the loneliness point as well, I think I might have shared this with you, Marcus, but I was probably lonely without realizing it, probably, up until I found running, and didn't even realize when I started Run Your Mind, it was not in a martyry way, but at the time thinking, oh, so many people around me will benefit, but I didn't realize how much I would, because I think there can be this perception of loneliness being pure isolation. But, you can still be doing things, you can still have pockets. I was still seeing family, but it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle. There were a few key pieces missing, that was still not filling up the cup and getting that level of fulfillment until I found out, I was lonely and I didn't even realize it. So it's not always staring you in the face, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Really interesting, that is. Yeah, it's cool to hear that. Yeah, even saying hi to like a barista or whoever it is, just asking how the day is. As you said, they can often be so surprised or taken back. Like that just shows the sort of nature that we're in. But it's why it's so important to really try and have those conversations as well.
But also, as you put importance to, like, we think all of these sessions are about like, how can I make myself better? But actually, in trying to help someone else, or not even trying to be a martyr for someone else, but like you say, and like we mentioned, like, just how's your day? How are you doing? Those small things, you do feel that burst of joy internally as well, and it's not completely, selfless.
Yeah, letting someone first on the tube, on a bus, helping someone with their bag if you can.
Letting someone take your seat on the tube. Yeah, exactly. It's all about that. It's all about balance, really.
Thank you anyway. We'll pass on to you for this mouse, I tell you.
No, you told you. No, back.
Oh, sorry.
You're giving it all away.
Spoilers.
Do it.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, so when Marcus and Charlie asked me to do this session around finding harmony at work, I think one of the things, so a few points here. The first thing I think that is underexplored, and I think probably even with everything that we've covered this evening, is the conversation you're having with yourself each day. I think we're very conscious of what we say to others. We're just in there, like how you can be nice to people around you and what others say to us, but less so about how we speak to ourselves. And that self-talk, that narrative is the conversation that sets the tone for every other conversation you have in your life, and can have such an influence in terms of what can make a really difficult day an okay day, or an okay day a great day, because our self-talk can be so busy. There's an interesting stat here. We can type about 60 or 70 words per minute. We can speak about 130 words per minute. Rap God Eminem, 260 words per minute is one of the fastest minutes of that song. How many words per minute do you think our self-talk is? And Marcus, Charlie, Lucy, feel free to throw out some numbers.
Is that our self-talk, you said?
Yes.
How many words
so
a minute?
260 is rap gods, 130 is us speaking out loud, 60 or 70 words per minute when we type.
Speaking for myself,
Say about. Go on, Marcus.
Speaking for myself, I would say definitely in the thousands.
No, like 400, I'd say.
In the thousands.
What are you gonna get for Lucy?
I'd say higher than lower, but I don't know if I can beat Rap God, so I'm going to say about 200.
Yeah, it's between 800 and 1,200 words per
Oh,
minute.
fair.
Yeah, so if you imagine sticking
Really
yourself
can't
on
make
times 10,
Yeah.
that's what's going on. And if you think about it now on this webinar, people watching, you're listening to this, you're taking this in, but you're probably also thinking about work today, an email you've got to send, a friend you're meeting up with later this week, something going on in your personal life, all these narratives, and they don't stop when you stop thinking about them. They're a bit like radio stations. You just change channel and you'll tune into things and turn up the frequency and the volume. And I think it's always important to ask yourself, is the conversation I'm having serving me or sabotaging me? There's so many things that we've spoken about this evening that you can't control, and the nature of what's going on in the world and other pieces, but there is things that we can control. And, however you want to speak to yourself, some people might think, oh, I need to be a bit more firm with myself or softer or kinder. As long as you're always asking yourself, if this was someone else sitting next to me right now, is this serving me or is it sabotaging me? Is it really benefiting me in this moment or is it setting me back? Because it's often that self-talk that can cause us to be our own worst enemies, and that kind of should have need language. I should be doing more. I need to go and socialize more. I have to get out. I have to do this. And again, if someone else was saying that to us, we wouldn't appreciate it. We would see it as micromanagement if it was work. We'd see it as toxic if it was a friendship or a relationship. Yet we use that language all the time, and it often creates a lot of self-judgment and pressure for us to go and do things when actually simply changing it to want to or get to. Like, I want to go and meet people at this run club this evening. I want to get into running. I want to stay social or keep my socializing while it's colder, or I get to go and spend time with these people this evening. And I think when you change that language around, you imply choice, you imply a sense of gratitude, particularly with the get to piece, and can little small things like that. So I just say be conscious of your conversation. Ask yourself, and it's not something you're going to be conscious of all the time, but just checking in and going, if this were a friend sitting next to me or a partner, would I appreciate what they're saying right now? And if not, what would I say to them? Because then how do I say that to myself and allow myself, whether it's finding harmony at work or outside of that? Because if I'm conscious of what colleagues are saying to me, I should be more conscious of what I'm saying to myself. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things, and that doesn't just apply to work, of course. I think the second thing is challenging a narrative. I think what I mean by this is when self-talk can go on and on, it can become limiting beliefs. It can become this, I'm never going to be as good as this person. I'm not confident enough. I'm always going to struggle with this. I'm not going to be able to do that. And of course, our brains are very much like Google. Like anything you type in, it's going to come back with evidence, and confirmation bias is going to turn up the volume and say, yeah, look, here's all the things that you're not good at. Here's why this isn't going to work. Here's why you're going to struggle, and only amplify it more. And if you imagine, it's a bit like seeing a no entry sign for a road, you're never going to drive down it because you think, well, I can't get through it. So the longer you have that narrative in your head, the less you're going to explore it, the more it's going to become this feeling that I just have to accept this. So one thing I would suggest here around challenging your narrative is, if you find yourself with these limiting beliefs, these stories where maybe you say something and people might ask you sometimes, oh, what's the reason behind that? And you might say, I don't know, it just is. That's just who I am. I'm not good with money, or I'm always late, or I can never be confident. And there's a one example of it, or there isn't an example, but you create this narrative. So one thing I would suggest there is challenging the narrative, changing the statement to a question. So rather than I'm not confident enough in this situation, is what's one thing I can do to feel more comfortable in this situation? Or I'll never be as good as this person. What's 2 to 3 things I appreciate about what I bring to my role or to my friendships? Or what's 1 or 2 things I appreciate about that person that I could learn from? So as soon as you turn a statement to a question, your brain does what it's designed to do. It starts thinking of solutions and answers, rather than just building up an evidence bank of all the reasons why you can't do something or change something. The third point on here, I heard this a few years ago, and it's something that really resonated with me, because I used to probably show up in my 20s and think, oh, I need to prove something. I need to prove that I belong here. I need to prove that, I'm not an imposter. I need to prove that, whether that was at work, whether that was in relationships, friendships. And it stopped me being authentic. It stopped me showing up as who I was. And for maybe the company that hired me in the first place, or the friend that wanted me as a friend or relationship, like this thing of feeling like you need to prove something will often mean everything feels a bit performative. You start putting in all the extra effort, you start creating a bit of an imbalance around all the important relationships and connections in your life as well. And when you remind yourself you're often here to learn something, whether it's about yourself, whether it's about someone else, whether it's in a work context about a product, a service, a solution, you will indirectly prove yourself as a result of that, because curiosity is the thing that will allow you to go into situations without that ego jumping in and thinking, oh, I need to jump in and do something here. It will allow you to learn. It will allow you to indirectly prove who you are and show up who you are, but in an authentic way. So I think just reminding yourself for those people who, particularly if you feel a bit out of depth, or maybe you've just got a new role, you've been promoted, and you're thinking, oh, I don't belong here, or I'm going to get found out, is you're here to learn something, not to prove something. You've already done the proving, that otherwise you wouldn't have that position you're in. It's about learning. And once you get that headspace of thinking, well, if I just can learn something new every day, I'm going to be improving. And by improving, I'm going to prove. And then the fourth thing, focus on moving towards something rather than away from. So what I mean by this is when you are looking to set a goal, create a new habit, break a habit, is think about, what are you trying to move towards something or away from something? If you're trying to stop something at work, if you're like, oh, I just need to stop doing this, I need to stop doing that, the brain doesn't work that way. If I said don't think about a pink elephant, like everyone thinks about a pink elephant. If you say don't, it's a bit like saying I need to stop spending so much time lost in my emails or stop spending so much time on my phone. There's no direction to that. You might spend more time watching TV or chatting in the office, not actually being productive. There's no way of measuring it either. If you say, oh, I need to stop being so anxious presenting, well, how do you know you're less anxious? You're probably going to get anxious about thinking, are you less anxious, which is just going to make you more anxious and get some weird inception around it. So think about, what state do you want to move towards? If you want to feel less anxious about something, what's the state you want instead? You want to feel calmer, confident, energized, focused. Instead of thinking I want to spend less time on my phone in the evenings because I'm not switching off properly, maybe I want to spend more time reading. Okay, I want to spend, read 2 or 3 pages a night. So, and this is the other thing as well, even when you're trying to shift, maybe you're in a stressful state or feeling overwhelmed or anxious, don't go for a run or a walk or something with the idea being, I need to do this to stop feeling anxious. Again, not the need. I want to do this to feel more relaxed, to feel more calm, because when you're out doing that thing, you're going to be thinking about a more positive state you want to move towards rather than a negative state that's only going to keep you in there. So again, just to summarize there, think about the conversation you're having with yourself. If you were sitting next to yourself right now and someone was saying that to you, would you appreciate it? If not, what would you want them to be saying? Challenge your narrative, turn statements into questions. Remind yourself you're here to learn something, not to prove something. And think about, what state or goal or habit are you looking to move towards rather than away from?
Wow.
Thank you very much, Chris.
It's incredible. That point number 3, that's showing up authentically it becomes so obvious once you've realized that that's why you're doing something, you're trying to prove something instead of just, being you, which is by far the best way anyway. I do very much resonate with that a lot. That is, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Likewise, Chris is here for the next 10 minutes. So if you have any questions for him as well, please do
Put them in the chat.
put them in. So finally, we just wanted to round up with some sort of information about finding your community, not only from a psychological perspective. Hi, that's me. But also giving you some practical tools as well. So I want to share a theory with you, a psychological one, shock, about finding your community, but it's really about human motivation and what motivates us. So this theory is called the self-determination theory. And it's, like I said, it's a theory of motivation and then by proxy, our well-being and how we experience the world around us. It's got 3 components to it. We have agency. So us as human beings, we are motivated to feel in control. We're motivated to feel powerful, and we're motivated to feel like we know what we're doing and we're choosing what we're doing, and we're choosing the people we interact with the activities we do, the work we do. We want to have that autonomy and that agency. Moreover, we have relatedness. We're motivated by relatedness, connections with other people, whether we want to take up a hobby, whether, again, at work, we want to feel in what we're doing connected with people, we want to feel related with people, and like there is that mutual connection there. So that motivation for that mutual connection, then if that's achieved, that helps us and boosts our well-being, and it helps us feel like we are in the right place doing what we're supposed to be doing. And finally, we have competence. We're motivated to feel competent and good at what we're doing. We want to, as humans, feel like we're good. We don't like feeling bad. It agitates our brains. It makes us feel uncomfortable. And it's not something we, by default, like. That's where we can challenge that. But by default, according to the theory, we should and we need to feel good. And we want to feel like we know what we're doing in our activities. we're going to bleed that into or lend that to the following points, but that's just an overarching theory that can help sort of contextualize what we're going to talk about. Firstly, in finding your community, something that we resonate with and I resonate with and think that is just super helpful is what we can lose touch of when we're chasing these achievements, chasing this promotion, chasing, the money and whatever it is. We lose touch with nurturing our inner child. It sounds a bit wishy-washy, but it's so true and so valid. We spoke about this in our hobbies episode and looked into some research in this again, which we'll share. But when we're here just trying to be productive, we don't nurture that inner child, and we don't allow our self space to follow what our passions are. If you're someone who's here listening now, like, okay, I've heard about communities, I've heard about social isolation, I've heard about connecting with people, but I don't know where to begin. How do I do that? I feel like everyone around me has a passion. I don't have a passion. Every, if there's something on a tube, if there's a book that you've read, if there's an author that you know, or a poster on the tube, like I mentioned, takes your interest, I tell you, if you have any sort of interest in London, there is something for it, and there is a community for it. Charlie and I were cycling. Again, the place when we cycled to Hyde Park, we cycled past a Brompton Bike Society. I tell you, if you have a passion, there's a place for it in London, and I think it's just really important also because that gives you the agency. You're feeling like, okay, I'm nurturing internally what my brain wants, what my inner child wants. I'm looking after that inner child, and I'm giving it what it deserves and what it wants and what it needs. I think also number three, really important here, and something that I have personally learnt a lot from in the last few years and tried to continue to do so, and it links to the competence factor of the self-determination theory, is it's okay to be bad and to not know things. Basically, like I say, we're wired to feel competent and we're wired to feel good. And that causes agitation and friction when we start something. We go to a new club, we go to a new society, we go to, I don't know, yoga class as a means of trying to connect with people, and we're rubbish at it. We're like, I'm just not going to do that. The last couple of months, I've been trying to do handstands. If anyone's been following the Mood Booster page, you'll be seeing I've been trying to do handstands. Originally, I'm someone that would be like, I can't do that. I'm not going to try because I'm just bad at it and it would frustrate me. I've really tried to sit knowing this, sit in that discomfort and sit with being bad to try and get better. And in doing so, it's allowed me in the park. Several people walk up to me like, oh, this is how you can do better. This is how you can do this. And it's those little micro connections that have just been so joyful that I've had from being able to just sit in that being bad. And incompetence means that growth is possible. So even though our brain will cause that friction for us and tell us, oh, don't go to this society, or don't go to Pilates or whatever it is because I'll be bad at it. It's okay to be bad. Our brain won't want us to, but there's growth in that discomfort. And finally, for me, I will say that there's also so much to be said for being an active participant. And I appreciate people are coming to this call and this webinar from all different places and different levels of, being being an introvert or being shy or not having as much confidence or whatever. But even the smallest step, like we were saying earlier, reflecting, you can go to a society or a club or a run club and just be there as a passive member. I was doing that for so long, but there are small steps that you can just take to it might feel just the smallest thing, and it doesn't have to be this big grandiose step of, well, let me put myself in front of this big group of people and say this huge thing or announce myself. Why don't, for example, if you're at a book reading club, why don't you suggest that one book for next week? It might not be picked up. That's also okay. It might not be taken on board. But in you suggesting that one book, for example, one person around the corner or around the circle might have earwigged that and been like, oh, that's a book that I also know. That's an author I know. You have no idea the butterfly effect, that those just small little changes. And that's what we're really trying to put here also. It's those small things, not the big changes, that just have a knock-on effect and can really help you when you're trying to sort of sculpt and build that community in such a place that you feel like you just don't know anyone. Yeah. There's small steps. Continuing with you, Charlie, and then
Thanks, Dr. Marcus. Well, yeah,
No worries.
I know we've been speaking so much on these sort of deeper connections, these more meaningful conversations we're having. But something that we really want to explore as well is the benefit to these micro connections or these weaker ties So you're probably asking me, hey, Charlie, listen, what is a weaker tie? I tell you, hold on, and I will tell you right now. A weaker tie or a more micro connection is, well, what I distinguish it from a stranger is someone who you might, know through someone. A coffee barista could easily be a micro connection. A friend of a friend, a gym receptionist. It's these little interactions that we have through the day. We might not be close to them. They might not be in our direct, strong circle of stronger ties, but these are still people in our outer circles who we recognize because they're part of our days. Having a broader network comes with so many benefits because it just really expands your social circle. One of the main benefits to having a wider network is having broader perspectives and ideas. Now, whether this be through traveling or whatever, through cuisine, culture, whatever it is, even your social ideas, having broader perspectives and ideas can help so much to not only help your health, but also your mental well-being as well. So again, it can be such a small conversation that you walk up, the person on that train platform who's working there, you're right, Greg, how's it going? It can be such a small, meaningless conversation, but it actually does so much for us, that sort of weak tie. Studies have actually found that more job opportunities come from our weaker ties as well. Because we have a larger social network, a larger social circle, more job connections can actually be found through these micro connections as well. Usually your stronger circle is extinguished in terms of helping you through these job connections. So it can be a friend of a friend who might know exactly what you're going for and can reach out and say, hey, I know this thing. So really, really important for that reason as well, to have these sorts of more micro connections day in and day out. Lower pressure, this is really interesting. But for those weaker connections or those more micro ties, I should say, we don't know that person. For instance, we're far less committed to them. They don't have these preconceivements or these sort of judgments about what we're going to say. So it feels a lot easier to unload or offload our baggage onto these people. It's not to say you need to trauma dump onto anyone who you meet at a run club, but it often feels far easier to open up about something that you're struggling with at work, or a family member said this one thing to you. So it's often a far lower pressure environment to share or to vent, and can be really, really helpful and quite healing actually as well. This is maybe something that maybe some guys will resonate with more, especially with a lot of more sort of toxic masculine values floating around. But there's an idea that to loved ones or to your family, you won't share because you'll be a burden to these people. So it can actually feel a lot easier to these sorts of more micro connections to share what you're going through. Again, just as why it's so important to have these micro connections in your day in and day out life. Also, really interesting, more interactions, we live longer. It's really interesting. There was a study that found frequent participation in social activity, so more micro connections, was significantly associated with a prolonged overall survival. There was a study of 30,000 Chinese people. They were older people, and they found that more frequent social activity, you live longer. So speak to that barista, ask them how their day was, exactly what Chris and Marcus were saying. That gym receptionist, show interest in what they're doing. Even if you don't think you're going to get a lot out of it, you might live longer. Another really cool study as well. A study found that students actually scored higher on happiness and had greater feelings of belonging on days when they interacted with more of their classmates as well. Again, just to go over it, the more interactions we have, the more micro connections, the wider our social network, the better we'll feel. This sort of lends into the last point here, is our daily rituals. These provide such a sense of community in anything that we're doing. You wake up and every morning you walk past a coffee shop, you're right, how's it going? Just those little micro connections that you can have day in and day out will root you in your community and make you feel far more connected and far less socially isolated. So don't graze over, or don't, whatever the phrase is, don't just not think about that that connection because it's meaningless. It can actually do so much for us. So homework for everyone is to say hi to your local person, whoever it is. It'll help you live longer. That's a bit on how to find your community.
And like we said, we just wanted to give you some practical resources as well. We won't go over these in one by one for the sake of time, but also, again, we'll follow up with an email. These are some resources that we found from our own lived experience living here in London that have been really helpful. They are sort of a range of different sort of directories or event organizers themselves. I will point out Sunny London is very interesting. I personally found her, one of my housemates shared her details. She every Thursday, if not Wednesday, shares what's going on the weekend, because I often am like, I've got a free weekend. What on earth am I going to do? I've got no idea. She has a list on her videos every week what you can do in London, communities you can find. Often she makes a point of listing the free ones as well. So far, she's doing it all off her own back. It's not like a paid partnership thing, which yeah, but yes, it's really good. But all of these are here, and we will share these with you afterwards as well.
That third one's pretty good, isn't it?
Oh yeah, of course.
Third one's great.
Yeah, yeah.
We will email us all afterwards, though.
But just really helpful resources here to sort of help you find communities, and also we included non-alcohol based ones as well, because that's obviously really important here.
100%.
But yes, thank you very much. Really appreciated that, and your ears this evening.
Here's some lovely QR code that I made for you all. Scan away. On the left, you can find a bit about the Mood Booster. In the middle, the Run Club, the Monday Mood Booster. And on the right, Run Your Mind, which is Chris's community and Run Club as well. So scan away. Now, we've been speaking to you for so long. If you have any questions, please whack them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
We have gone over a little bit, so appreciate
yes,
you being here.
Now in the 8 o'clock region. Yeah, any questions? We'll sit here for a little bit, just watching the screen. Yeah, thank you guys for joining.
Yeah,
a lot of fun
for sure. Any immediate reflections from you, or you, Lucy, or you, Chris?
Don't everyone speak at once. For me, I mean, I can go first. Yeah, Chris is again that third point about not being here to prove something, but here to learn something. So yeah, I think it's so easy to get trapped in that, especially with the toxic hustle culture that London seems to have, and especially with the internet and social media, everyone's competing now for, or it seems at least, to sort of be the wake up at 4 a.m. You know, it's just classic. You just learn to enjoy it and not prove something as well, and you'll show up so much better. So I was learning so much there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think
we've got a little social wellness club. Is great. I've tried it, but they are on a bit of a break at the moment. Yes, they've stopped events.
We were going to say, sorry, just for the timing. So social wellness club we included at the top. Thank you, Sarah. They are on pause until 2026. We were speaking with Thea, who is one of the founders. So they are still there. We've included them just because they are hugely beneficial. But they are November and December not in action, but they still do have group chats and resources and things. Like for this evening, you can sort of join their Learn and Thrive group chat, for example, on WhatsApp. And whenever there's things such as this or other talks or webinars or in person, whatever it is, that's a sort of a channel there with several hundreds of people that are just sharing all of these different informative things. So while they don't have their events at the moment, they still are useful in that sort of sense of being a directory, and hopefully they will be back in they will be back in January. Yes,
very exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting stuff.
I think
oh no, you go
please, Lucy, after you.
I was just gonna say just a fun one with those micro connections. As somebody who is that person for a lot of people working in hospitality, it is so common where you have these some of your regulars will come in and they'll just be able to chat about so many things that are going on in their lives that for a fact that they have not felt comfortable to talk to anyone about. And it is such an amazing thing to experience, and especially like naturally there's a lot of times where it is men that struggle to open up to their family about it, and they'll chat to us because we love to chat, we love to hear what's going on in their lives just generally. And I can only imagine, like, even just how that interaction, what that does for me. I can imagine what it's like for them. And I've always been a fan of those micro moments personally, of being a receiver as well as being able to be that person for others. I think that's a massive thing that obviously with we all experienced that with COVID, in that we were limited with that, and to have that back, I think it's something to really know not to take for granted anymore.
100%.
For me, I think there's something to say about like the spontaneity of those micro connections as well. Like we spend a lot of our time, especially, this isn't just in cities, but I guess in this context, a lot of our time planning and being like, okay, at the end of the week, I'm doing this, and this is what I'm doing next month, and this is what's coming up. I think I always leave those sort of interactions where I hadn't expected. I didn't even know I was going to see that person, just feeling like really refreshed, and like that's so sort of, yeah, just exciting to have had that connection and to have spoken to that person and learned this thing that I didn't go into today planning for or knowing or expecting to have learned this thing or learnt about this, I don't know, whatever it is. I just really like that, the spontaneity of it as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Often what I've found is the best opportunities can actually come from those, like the coolest opportunities, which you have no idea, come from those micro connections, those little interactions. Is why you always joke around like I'm always speaking to random people, but I just, there's so much, it's like a side quest, you know, you're like, oh, what could happen here? It's really, really cool. Obviously,
I have a good example of that. I go to this thing on a Thursday called Boring Cardio Club at Slevin Fitness. Started going, and I don't know anyone. I just knew the owner sort of partially, came on my podcast, and I was there last week and got chatting with some people after, and there was a girl there I was chatting to, and we were talking about mindset. I was talking about what I was doing, and she was like, oh, that's something I really want to get into. I kind of am doing. I speak a lot around eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And we had a really good chat, and she just said, and then she messaged me afterwards and was like, oh, do you know what, just chatting to you today, like it's cleared my mind. Like I didn't say anything to her that she didn't say. I was just talking out loud. And then I was like, do you want to come on my podcast? So she came on my podcast yesterday.
Oh, unreal.
Came over, and then realized afterwards when she put it on her story, her friend was like, oh, we ran with that guy a year ago. And this is like my first ever half marathon, like casual one before, when I did the run sock one. The kebab run, and it was just such a small world, but it just came from that small interaction. You're like, I've got something from it, she's got something from it.
Yeah,
cool.
It's crazy how quickly those sorts of things just immediately grow, so quickly, for sure. And also it always reminds you a bit like that, how without knowing how connected we all actually are. We feel like we're not, but just immediately someone knows you who knows someone who's
On Friday night
for a big place, London 100%. Can be small.
100%. On Friday night I was with some friends, just at a pub. On Saturday it was it Saturday? No, it was on Sunday morning. It was the Remembrance Day service all at London. Millions of people were out on the streets. Obviously, it was absolutely heaving. I get a text. One of my friends saw me cycling, and they were in a zip car. I was like, "What? How?" They literally messaged me like, "Nice blue jumper, mate." I was like, "What?" Like the chances of seeing like the streets are lined with people, it made no sense. But again, it's far more connected world as well. Yes.
I think for me, reflecting on that is something that we always try to do is talk about the small steps, and that's why those micro connections are so sort of important here. I think because we don't ever want to be like, oh, you need to go and change your life and do 75 hard or whatever it is. Like, okay, there's a time and place for those, but a lot of the time the best steps is just the first one and the small step, and the rest will look after itself. And those micro connections I feel like are a really good sort of manifestation of that, I think.
100%. Vic, hey there, thank you for such an amazing webinar. Thank you for joining. Lovely to have you here. About the QR codes, if you try and scan them on your phone, I'm not sure if you're actually watching on your phone. If you are watching on your phone, we'll send it in the resources in an email afterwards, so just keep an eye out for your email. But if you have your phone to hand, just scan the QR code instead.
Yes.
I didn't think of that, to be fair.
No,
that's fully on me. I apologize, Vic. That's on me.
I did anyway.
That makes complete sense. If they're watching on your phone, rookie error, happens to the best of us. Apologies. If you're on your phone, try and scan, but if not, we'll send them around afterwards. I can see Chelsea typing as well, so we'll just wait for some more questions there. But that's a great webinar.
Thank you all. Looking to join more groups this year, and this has really inspired you. Really agree how important micro connections are. Thank you very much for that, Chelsea. I hope it goes well. As we mentioned, just the small steps, those micro connections, and also if you're like practically trying to find those connections, some of those links there are really good directories for finding. Like Tribe has lots of different events listed on it.
Eventbrite as well. I'm sure you may have seen this on Eventbrite anyway, but Eventbrite is a really good one as well. If you search anything, it will have a lot of different things that will come up that are going on in London.
100%. We'll send it all afterwards in an email. Thank you anyway. It's been a lovely webinar. I think we wrap up there.
Yes.
We've got our evenings to get to. But once again, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Lucy and Chris. It was wonderful. An absolute honour to have you guys here, and I've learned a lot as usual, which is the main thing. So There we
Thank
go.
you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks
Alrighty.
guys. Thanks everyone.
Thanks,
care.
Thanks
guys.
Lucy.